I would like to invite my esteemed panelists today. And along with that, I will introduce also. First, Ms. Deepa Malik. She is, yes, please welcome her on stage. She has won so many awards. If I start naming the awards, pura raat nikal jayegi. So she's the first Paralympic medal winner woman of India. 2016, she won a silver medal in shot put in Rio Olympics, Paralympics. She's a Padma Shri Awardee. She's an Arjun Award winner. And most of all, she's a winner in life. And she has broken boundaries and just an amazing feat. We'll talk about it later. She will tell you about it. I would like to invite Ms. Neha Dixit. Please welcome her on stage. Neha is she's a fearless journalist. She's a rare breed. She's come from a small town like me. So we have, I think all of us have that in common. And she's been doing some amazing investigative journalist work. So more about it later. And last, but also the least, in terms of age, Gurmehar Kaur. Please welcome her. Gurmehar is, again, a fearless student activist. I mean, she has defied the powers be, and at a very young age, she became an author. At just 21, you were 21, right? 20, my goodness. At 20, she came out with her first book, and since then, you have written more books, right? So, by the way, all three are authors here. They've all come out with their books. Deepa ji, your book is Bring It On, just like her. I mean, it suits you so much. And Neha Dixit, The Many Lives of Saida X. It sounds like a crime thriller, and I picked it up for that. I thought it's a fiction, and I will read it when I'm done with my non-fiction heavy reading. But turns out it's also a non-fiction, and she will talk about it more. So, okay, I will take my seat also, and if everybody is comfortable, please switch off your phones and pay all attention to these ladies here. Thank you. So, you know why we are here today of all the days and this month, because earlier this month, we celebrated the International Women's Day. Does anyone know what date it was? 8th of March, great. So why we celebrate this month and we continue to celebrate, you know, some people say we shouldn't do it. But I think that, you know, it's an opportunity for us to come together like this and talk about amazing women, and you know, how women have come so far. It's really amazing. In the last 30 years in our country, we have seen so much progress in terms of where women are, whether in sports, in journalism, in activism, in politics, you know, everywhere we see more women. But, you know, while we should appreciate and feel good for how far we have come, we should also remind ourselves that we're not there yet when it comes to true gender equality and gender parity. We are still way behind. So I'll start with Deepa. You know, I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm so in awe of, you know, I was reading about you, and I think you, on this stage today, you are the most impressive. Sorry, girls. And, you know...
You're just compensating for the fact that Ajay just said that there'll be women from different age groups, and you said that. And obviously, I'm the oldest, so you
So
hinted
you had more
that I'm
time.
the most antique person here, and we are generation apart. So 20s, 30s, and straight 2 generation later, 50s.
So I would straight away ask you that, I just mentioned just a couple of things that you have done, but um, like a Paralympic medal winner, and I would like you to talk about that. How did you think about it? You know.
So it was never the Paralympic medal. It was more about craving for a new identity because I got paralyzed as a child. Then I recovered. It was a 4 years of ordeal, an ordeal which gave me life lessons because they stayed subconsciously that how my parents loved me, how they did not give up on me, but how my mother cried because of the opinion people had around disability, and especially with a girl child in disability. What if she just lives and doesn't walk? You know.
This must have been
So as a child, I was five
many
years
years.
old.
Wow.
I was 5 years old. So 5 to 9 was my first introduction to disability and recovery. So it was deterioration, discovery of a tumor, surgeries, rehabilitations. But I saw how my parents timed themselves, what was the time management, what was working together as a team, making the best of the time that we were together. If technology had not progressed, we did not have iPads, video games, PlayStations. So there were a lot of board games, a lot of storytelling. My illness actually turned out to be great family time together. And everybody is planning consciously to keep happy during that time, to keep fit during that time, so that we can take care of my older brother, who's just a year older. To me, the memories of my illness are very happy ones because I would wait for that picnic basket. घर से खाना आता था, मम्मी क्या लाएगी आज बना के, आज हम कौन सा बोर्ड गेम खेलेंगे, आज हम कौन सी ड्राइंग करेंगे, आज पापा ऑफिस से आके कौन सी कहानी सुनाएंगे. So these were the priorities, and this is how they were presented to me. But I realized what was behind the scenes when my own child got paralyzed. She was barely 15 months old, just learnt walking. My memories of childhood were not that of walking. So I was celebrating my childhood in tiny footsteps of my child, my firstborn. And she accidentally meets with an accident. The domestic help leaves the main gate unlatched. She chases, the dog chases the cows on the street, and she chases the dogs, and there's a mayhem, and a biker hits her. Her head injury leads to left side of total paralysis. With a 15-month-old, I rushed to the same Pune Command Hospital where I had spent 4 years. And why me, why again was the question this time. And it was no longer picnics or storytellings or board games, because I understood why my mother cried in the corner of the room when some people left. And just when I was about, the life started looking up, my daughter's rehabilitation, her IQ tests, her delayed milestones, the struggle with her disability, with second pregnancy, to have another child or not, will this child also be damaged in some way by the Almighty? And then Ambika is born, things start looking up a bit. Devika shows that she does not have intelligence, it's only a disability, and intellect is intact. So that was a sigh of relief. And then my tumors come back when I'm barely 30 years old. It leaves me chest down paralyzed.
It's as if fate wanted you to be stronger and stronger.
Or maybe they were nudging us into a field which was, I think I was chosen. My father always said that, Deepa, you're the chosen one. And that feeling of being nudged into a sector of life, into disability, kept coming back, and this time it was for a lifetime.
So earlier today, Deepa, when we were chatting,
Yeah.
and so when you say you were the chosen, your father said you were the chosen one. I feel that, just you in this field, where a paraplegic goes on to achieve, you're limitless. Do you know she's also the only person, not just a woman, only person to do a Raid the Himalaya car rally. It's the toughest car rally in our country, and she's done it. So, and there are other many records she has broken. Yes, please.
So I think so what I'm trying to say here is that whatever came my way, I loved biking. I wanted to be a biker again. I loved sports growing up. I wanted to do sports again. Basically, I wanted to add the words fashion, travel, parties, fun, tourism, outdoors, everything to the word wheelchair or disability.
To the life
And I wanted to make it a better world for my child, because tomorrow my daughter is also going to grow up. Mm-hmm. So 3 decades had gone by. We were reaching the moon. We were having nuclear power. We were going to invent computers, but we were doing nothing about our stereotypical myth around disability. So then these became my mediums. I said, I'm going to do some crazy stuff from this body to give a shock treatment and to break the stereotype.
And single-handedly, you have done so much.
I think everything is a teamwork. It's just that I identify the right people at the right time
and that's why you
asked for help.
Chosen one.
I never shied away from asking from help. So sports also happened, biking happened, rallying happened, fights for policies happened. All this was targeted towards a change in the mindset. It turned into achievements. That was a win-win.
For everyone, for everyone. So Neha, would you like to tell us about, so Neha has done some really scary stuff also. She's not the physical kind, She has taken risks of, going against the establishment and sometimes doing work which I think maybe a private investigator would do. And she's done things like that. And written reports, very well laid out with facts. And she's won awards in journalism for that. So I would like to know, and I would like you to share here, that you did your schooling in Lucknow, then you went to Miranda House, and it's like a regular career. When did it occur to you that, I want to go to the northeastern states and, work with, there's insurgency there, so it's not safe for anybody, and especially a girl. So why did you do it, and what triggered? And
so many answers together. Okay, thank you for this, and very happy to be here. Also, the fact I was noticing that because it's a Women's Day program, so there are all women, as if the world does not need to do anything with women and gender equality or whatever. So, but I'm very happy all the women are here, so we'll get together and do something about it. Thank you for sharing your experiences. This is very inspiring, but also the fact that you just suggested many other things that I can do as career option, because not many journalists or writers, we keep thinking what next gig are we going to get to pay our bills, but this is like a good option. And also the fact, thank you for not introducing me as, often because I've reported for 18 years and I've reported on every possible thing. But each time I'm introduced, and this happens with a lot of women, that when I'm introduced, they say, this is Neha Dixit and she writes on women's issues. So thank you for not doing that. Because it never happens with a man, when a man is introduced, nobody says, this is this guy and he writes on men's issues. That never happens. So thank you.
There are no men's issues.
So for me, it started because I grew up in Lucknow and nobody understood even the J of journalism. And you know how it is in a very regular middle-class family where the dream is that one child should be a doctor, the other child should be an engineer, and then everything is fine. And thankfully, what elder siblings are slated to do always in life, they do like the nice thing that is expected of them. So my brother did that and did engineering. And when it came to me, I said, okay, not happening. Medicine is not happening. So I had to say something that what am I going to do? And that's the point where, cable TV, everything was coming. And suddenly I used to write. And you know how it happens, you write at home and some people at home start saying, "Arey, ye to likhti bhi hai, ye to kuch likhti bhi hai," and that rhyming type poetry that we all do as children. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do journalism. But then somebody told me about Delhi University. I came to Delhi University and again full hangama happened where somebody said that ye English honors karne se to matlab shaadi bhi nahi hoti, engineering karne se shaadi to hoti hai kam se kam, stuff like that. And in Miranda House, and thankfully that is the time when I basically owe my life to those 3 years because it shaped my worldview and what I think about the world. Because before that, like I said, I'd never read a full-length English book, which is not a course book. And English Honours was the first time first book I read was Pride and Prejudice. I mean, so whatever. But so it shaped my worldview, and then Ajay sitting here, he started the campus paper, and this was in 2005.
Talk about that, how Ajay Jain inspired.
Yeah, so Ajay started a paper called the campus paper, where all of us students found a place to write and scribble our notes and take them to Ajay, and then he published some of those pieces. And that's how one realized, okay, journalism is an option. But like you said about establishment, one thing I want to say this, and everybody should repeat this everywhere, that journalism essentially is anti-establishment. So in the last 18 years of reporting, it's not like we have seen who's in power and then we have reported. I've reported about the same things. If I've reported about mining in Haryana and mining in Rajasthan, mining in Jharkhand, we have not actually seen who's in power, because you are supposed to tell the establishment this is what is happening on the ground. And similarly, the story that you mentioned about trafficking, earlier also a lot of stories that I had done on human trafficking included stuff on...
So yeah, let me give a background.
Yeah.
So Neha has done a story on human trafficking, especially girls in the northeastern states, and it's called Beti Uthao.
Yeah.
That's what you call it? So yeah, please.
So basically the story is about how religious fundamentalist and Hindu right-wing groups had actually take children from the northeast and to other parts of the country and basically ideologically sort of train them, and I managed to track a number of children. And this is the same model which is not just specific to the Hindu right wing. The Christian missionaries have also done that in the past.
Neha,
and this is the same, I'll just explain the context of the story. And this is something, the global...
I want to know that, were you scared at any point?
I'll tell you. So the global reference point to this is what happened in the residential schools in Canada and Australia, where a lot of indigenous children were taken and put in these residential schools, and now they're all talking about loss of culture, language, traditions, and in 2017 Trudeau also apologized. So the point, you introduced all of us as fearless at the opening of this panel. But everybody sitting here is fearless. It's not like sometimes we don't want to be fearless, but there is no option.
I think
but
that's
to,
one thing that is common amongst the three of you. Like you have defied boundaries and overcome fears of all kinds, whether it was physical or life-threatening, or it was like Gurmehar here. You were so young. I mean. I see young girls are scared of even stepping out of their homes. I mean, helicopter parenting is so common. So
I just want to complete my point. What I'm saying is that a lot of us in the situations that we are put in, now everybody says, oh, this person is very brave or very courageous or fearless. But the point is we are put in those situations where there's no option but to be that. And this almost becomes like a survival tactic, and that pressure a lot of times in the current times is, and always before, is put on women, where you have to be this hardened, brave person, never talking about the situations that you're facing at work or at home. And a lot of this has been spoken about as journalists. When Me Too happened, lots of these conversations came up where you're expected to behave like a man and say, no, there is no problem. So when I'm going out to report, there may not be a toilet, there may be some person misbehaving with me, but I can't come back to the newsroom and say that I have this problem, because the moment I say that, they'll say, okay, stop doing these, political or hard stories. And there are journalists from the previous generation who've spoken about how they were they were always told to cover flower shows and baby shows. And if you had to cover like political stories or stuff, then you had to say that there is no problem while you go there. So there is this, we are literally forced. We are forced to say we are brave and we don't have any problem. So it's a tactic to tell people, do not say that you have a problem, otherwise you will not get the chance to do what you want to do. And this applies to everybody who's on the margins.
Great, great. Thank you, Neha. You can pick up the same thread of fearlessness and being brave and tell us what... you became really famous at one point. Like everybody knew who was Gurmehar Kaur. Yeah. You still are, but in those days, I mean, she was all over the news. And I used to think that, she's such a young girl, what is she going through? So my emotions were, because as a mother, I was thinking, she's too young to be facing all this. So tell us about that time.
I think in hindsight, it's been 10 years, 8 years, I'm 27 now. But now that it's been 8 years, I do look back, and I often go to universities now where I meet young girls who are 19 years old, and I look at their faces, and I think, did I do that at age 19? But I don't know, I often think there's a very fine line between courage and stupidity. And I mean, and I think about it and I laugh about it, because for a lot of people, what I did, the campaign that I started, which was the little placard that said Students Against this particular political organization in Delhi University, it's called ABVP. I think when I picked that placard up, I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, okay, well, here are my English honors notes. And my handwriting was terrible, so I gave it to my best friend, Urvi, whose handwriting was much better. And I said, you know what, why don't you write this and put this hashtag? And what we're going to do is, we have a hostel and we've got some 20, 30 girls here. If 20, 30 of us just change our profile picture, I think we'd be able to send a message against campus violence. And it was a very simple thought. So I took the back of my English honors notes. The front page I never read. Maybe it was Pride and Prejudice. I'm not quite sure. And I handed it to Urvi. She wrote it for me. Then I said, okay, take a photo of me against the hostel wall, and I'll change my profile picture. And then I did the whole thing where, you're 19, you're a bit vain, you want to look nice, so you change the filters of it, because you're not thinking anything of it. You're nobody in the larger scheme of things. It's been some 3 months since I've come from Jalandhar to Delhi. I've not lived outside of Punjab before that. I've not lived outside of Jalandhar and Ludhiana before it. Delhi is a whole new world for me, and it's Delhi University. When you come from a small town, it just feels so massive, and you basically are in a university of every head boy of every school in India that year. So you feel so small, so I didn't think anything of it. I just put the photo up, and I think the next day I woke up, and I think my life had changed. I don't know how else to explain it. Next day I woke up, and it was everywhere where students were changing their profile pictures to the placard. It didn't make sense to me. I thought, okay, this is very cool. This is very nice. And it was never linked back to me until, of course, somebody from the Times of India did a report linking my previous campaign to this one, and then the right wing picked it up, and it became this huge issue. If I think about it, I don't know if I could ever put into words what I was feeling, because I've never felt like that before. And I don't think I've ever felt like that since. I was so scared in one moment, But then on the other, but then I also had to, you said, Neha, and I'm sure you must have felt it too, because when you're in a place like that, there is really no option. So my entire brain, I was just thinking about were logistics. And some silly logistics. Oh, I don't have laundry, but I can't go to my balcony because all of Indian media is outside my hostel. So I can't actually put my clothes to dry. So very logistical things. Okay, I have an English paper due, which is in 1 week, but I'm unable to cross this little park to my college. So how do I get this teacher's number and get an extension? So I think my brain, I'd gone into such a survival mode. And I remember calling my teacher and said, okay, ma'am, can I get an extension? She looks at my face and she said, what are you saying? Why aren't you home just yet? And then eventually, of course, I went home. Then I went for Vipassana. My mom hid me away from Indian media, the trolls and the haters. But I don't know. I don't know.
I was watching some interview you gave around that time, and there was something about trolls, that how it did bother you, and so social media is somewhere a place where all women are there now. I mean, at least the women sitting here, you have a social media presence, and I don't know if ever in some way, it's become like a street. So how you feel unsafe on streets sometimes, that's how you feel on social media sometimes, especially when you have a public profile, and especially if you are going to speak your mind. So it feels the same, doesn't it? I mean, talk about.
The thing is, at that point, I didn't know. I didn't have a public profile. I just had a Facebook account and I had a Twitter account with 2 tweets on it. The moment I realized, okay, now I have a public profile, was after. So this whole thing happens, and my brain is. This incident I remember is when some politician said something to me and gave me a threat of death, and now calling for my murder. And then another people followed up. I remember my phone, at that point I didn't have my phone notifications off, because who was texting me? Nobody was messaging me. And suddenly my phone, I couldn't, and this was, you didn't have face opening the phone, you had to swipe up and type in your password. But the notifications were coming so fast after that I couldn't get into my phone, because the notifications just would not stop coming. The phone calls wouldn't stop coming. The messages wouldn't stop coming. Like my phone properly got heated, and I think I don't remember anything from there. And that's my experience of experiencing trolls for the first time. But I think but it was only when I came after Vipassana, when a lot of things had fallen down, I came back, I looked at my account and I said, okay, well, these people don't like what I say, but suddenly I have 20,000 people listening to everything I have to say with like rapt attention. So why not use this platform instead of hiding? But there was always a back and
look at
forth.
the positive side of it. So this was probably the life-changing, the exact moment when your life changed. I would come back to you, Deepa, because you had a moment when your life changed. Ajay was telling me about it. When the doctors told you the day before your surgery. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, before I answer that, I think the moral of the story here from this stage today is, girls who do English honors are fearless. So here are 3 English honors pass outs.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, okay. I did my English honors from Sophia College, Ajmer.
Sign me up too, please.
So English honors is good to become fearless. So that's one part of it. And you said the changing life moment.
And also to write books. All 3 of you have come up.
Yes, I have to give a lot of credit to my co-author, Soni Sangwan. She could really put my thoughts, align my thoughts. And I'm very grateful to my co-author, because there were so many stories. I was just bombarding her with so much information. And my life is not really, to get it linear, how a book reader, because I'm not a book person. I've never written a book before. So she helped me align my thoughts. I was all over. Sometimes I was taking biking stories. Sometimes I would jump to a sports story, then go back to my rallying. So somebody had to, kind of align it, and she's done a beautiful work. And what I like about her is she's written it verbatim. So when I read it, I feel that yes, these are my words. So she hasn't really made it into a Shakespearean kind of a.
It is also like a memoir, right?
Yes, it is just like my words put there and put in a linear manner. So thanks to Sony, she couldn't make it today, but I'm really grateful to her. And life-changing moments, I think there have been many, like you said, 2 days before the surgery. I think I'll take you 7 days before the surgery when actually the MRI report said the tumors are back and with a vengeance, and this time there isn't a hope for me to walk again the way I had walked as a child, but it's going to be a redo surgery. And the tumor originated from within the spinal cord. Previously it was sitting outside, they could clean a bit of it and I could regain my ability to walk. But this time they will cut the spinal cord. Now with a husband fighting the Kargil war, it was the last week of the month of May, and they moved me to RR Hospital, Delhi. Again, a hospital where every 1 hour war casualties were brought in. So I was surrounded by this whole thought of death, and the people I was looking at were all bedridden, injured, had already lost a limb, had a bullet in their spine, lying paralyzed, their eyes were gouged out. They were all Kargil war casualties. So either there was death lurking, or I could literally see my future in disability in them. So it wasn't, and at the same time you have a child who's recovering from disability and another child is just 3 years old. All I was thinking was that at least one of us should make it alive. And I was very confirmed in my head, being an army wife, that not very many are coming back alive. So I cannot give up on life. I have to live. I have to stay alive, and I have to make it through this journey of my surgery. So that was the thought. I think mother in me kept me pretty, So I had surgeries, I had...
Every time you, tell us something about your life, I again, think about how you are the chosen one.
Yeah.
So being surrounded by the Kargil war survivors, yes. I think it prepared you.
It
for your
prepared
own
me because
disability.
these were all very young men who were medically so fit to serve the nation in a very demanding job of Indian Army. But they were still smiling and they were comparing their injuries. They said, oh, you lost 1 leg, I lost 2, I'm more patriotic. I have served my country even more. There was no fear in their eyes of having lost a limb. They were all very... so I said, if they could accept it so graciously, I still have a medical problem which has come back. So I have nobody to complain. And one thing I was fortunate that I never felt guilty about it, because this is not something that I wanted to be. And this is not what any mother would want for her child to be. So when I meet people like me in some physical disability or the other, guilt is put upon them. बुरे कर्मों का फल था, पुराने जन्म का कोई बदला है.
That's horrible. I mean,
so that is what the way the justification around disability is given. And anybody who helps you becomes hero, and you become the dependent person. So I was fortunate to nurture my thoughts, and it didn't happen overnight. I'm also human, but I am a testament to the fact that when you work towards your mind and you align your thoughts towards positivity, it is possible. मैं वही व्यक्ति हूँ जो बिस्तर पे पड़े लिखती थी कि यह मेरे शब्द नहीं जो कविता है कहते, आंसू हैं जो कलम की नोक से हैं बहते. या मैं लिखती थी जब जब इस शाख से पत्ता गिरता है, मैं समझती हूँ कि अब पतझड़ का पेड़ मेरे अक्ष से कितना मिलता है. खूबसूरत है बहुत. और मतलब मैं और मेरी तन्हाई एक सूनेपन से आलिंगनबद्ध है, और इस आलिंगन से उमड़ते घुमड़ते प्यार रूपी घड़े को मैं अपने घर के आंगन के कुएं में गेर देना चाहती हूँ, उसकी धरा में खो जाने के लिए। लेकिन हर सुबह मेरे घर के घड़े में उसी कुएं का पानी भरता है। ऐसे करके काफ़ी कविताएं लिखती थी और वैसा ही महसूस करती थी, क्योंकि जो भी आता था वो कुछ ना कुछ बोल जाता था। वन डे आई वोक अप एंड आई रोट अनदर पोएम। कदमों को रुकना मंजूर न था, राहें और भी तो हैं, तय तो करना है तो क्यों ना हंसकर, जिंदगी एक सफ़र ही तो है। अब उस सफ़र को मैं सुहाना सफ़र बनाऊं या मैं अंग्रेज़ी का सफ़र बनाऊं, द चॉइस इज़ इन माई हैंड एंड आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट आई चोज। आई सेड आई एम गोइंग टू मेक अ चॉइस of staying happy. And today if somebody asks me sitting on the wheelchair that क्या बीमारी है, बीमार हो, and I turn around and say yes, मुझे खुश रहने की बीमारी है.
Very nice. Thank you so much. This is so inspiring. मुझे goosebumps हो रहे हैं. Really, I'm in awe because you know this. She's testament to what one life can do, and you know be. Like you said, you know, we worry about so many things in our lives. ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है, and here you are.
But I demand change. I don't accept. I don't take it lying down. I'm being very honest. I raise like how she had a thought, she raised a voice. She had a thought, she raised a voice. I remember when we were being invited for a medals felicitation by the CM of Haryana in 2010. We got back from Asian Para Games, the first Asian Para Games, and I won the first female Asian Para Games medal. And we all reached Panchkula, Chandigarh, and we had that newspaper cutting. Suddenly the news flashed that today there's going to be a big felicitation ceremony, and para athletes will be given 1 lakh rupees, and the able-bodied will be given 10 lakh rupees. I reread it, and it was 6 a.m. in the morning. I saw it. I don't know how I Googled, I found CM's residence number, and I just dialed it. I had no clue what's going to happen, like how she said. She just did it. So I just did it. And I said, I'm so and so, and I spoke in a very firm voice, confident voice, and I'm the medalist, and blah, 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 and I want to talk to the CM. And they said, CM sir is, his morning routine is to play tennis. He used to play Mr. Huda. And I said, I want to speak to him. I demand to speak to him. I'm a citizen of Haryana and I want to speak to him. So they said, ठीक है मैडम, आप CM residence आ जाइए और around 8 वो अपना game finish करते हैं, वहीं आपको मिला देंगे. I went to him and I said, sir नमस्कार, thank you for felicitating us. मैं आपसे आशीर्वाद लेके वापस जाना चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि स्टेज पे मैं आपसे 1 लाख रुपए का चेक नहीं पकड़ूंगी. Not 10% of the cash award which you are going to give to the able-bodied, because मैं 10% तिरंगा लेके खेलने नहीं गई थी.
Very nice.
और मेरे पास आज भी उस चेक्स की कॉपीज हैं. आधे घंटे के अंदर 9 लाख का एक और चेक इशू हुआ. So that was just not just for me, and that was the start of policy changing within Haryana. And same thing I did when I sat across Mr. Modi on चाय पे चर्चा. एक चाय पे चर्चा शुरू हुई, उन्हें चाय वाला कहा गया.
फेमस मोदी जी ने आपकी तारीफ करी और मतलब
so, चाय पे चर्चा पे हम कुछ महिलाओं को उनसे बात करने का. अब मुझे कुछ नहीं पता था पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में, मुझे नहीं पता था, क्योंकि मेरे को नहीं पता था. मैं बीइंग वेरी ऑनेस्ट. और मुझे उनकी हस्ती.
दीपा, आप कहते हैं मुझे पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में नहीं पता, पर आपने पॉलिटिशियंस को झुका दिया. You know, this is politics actually. This exactly is politics.
So I think this is our right to voice. That's the power of your voice. All I said to him, मोदी जी मैं आपको वोट तभी दूंगी. मैंने बहुत ही आराम के शब्दों में बोला. मैंने कहा अंग्रेजी में, मेरा कहने का मतलब था अराउंड द वर्ल्ड, कि अंग्रेजी में हम फिजिकली चैलेंज एंड स्पेशली एबल्ड हो गए हैं, लेकिन इंडिया में हम अभी भी अपाहिज और अपंगी हैं. मेरा कहने का तात्पर्य ये था कि वी नीड टू डू मोर, बिकॉज आई हैड स्टार्टेड ट्रैवलिंग अब्रॉड, आई हैड स्टार्टेड सीइंग एक्सेसिबिलिटी इन अदर कंट्रीज. सो एंड सेकेंड थिंग कि मेरे खेलों को पूरे संसार में एट पार माना जाता है। ओलंपिक्स के बाद पैरालंपिक्स होते हैं, एशियन गेम्स के बाद एशियन पैरा गेम्स होते हैं, कॉमनवेल्थ हम एक ही प्रांगण में खेलते हैं, तो फिर ये इक्वालिटी क्यों नहीं है? एंड आई एम ग्रेटफुल that once he did become, when he did become the Prime Minister, that's the impact I saw. Again, being apolitical here, but I'm just saying. So he said Divyang. He said Divyang, and after that the focus changed to Accessible India campaign. The policies were refined. We were made part of the Target Olympic Podium scheme. A lot of funding came for me to prepare. So I see that little change. So you know, a lot of times we say, "Mere karne se kya hoga?" So if you are an educated, evolved citizen, and you have done English honors, speak out.
So now I will just, because this was for Women's Day and you have heard their, amazing stories, all three of them. I would also ask them to maybe talk about their books later, but right now I would invite anyone from the audience who would like to ask a question to any of these three amazing ladies.
Hi, I'm Tanya, and I guess every one of us is somewhere down the line inspired by all four of you, I would say. I would just ask, there are times when even after being so positive and I guess mindful nowadays, there are negative thoughts, there are things which take you down, and we talk a lot about resilience. So what is that one thought, one practice which would take you back to your positive thought even when you have that negative thoughts or fear in mind of going down?
I would love to answer this because I just had a conversation today on anger with my therapist. And I think you said this where you were saying, oh, I would love to be positive all the time. And I went in to my therapy session this morning and I said, Kasturi, I wake up with rage in my stomach every morning and I don't know what to do about it. I wake up with so much anger around so many things. For example, I would also wish the Prime Minister would hear me out as well and do some policy changes around safety of women on the internet. And the small things I would wish, but that is one of the things that I was very angry about. And something had happened where somebody had said, something, and I went to my therapist and I said, what do I do with this anger? And she said, well, you've got to let it be. You cannot stop feeling it. She said, when you put your finger in a cup of hot boiling water, do you just put the finger in and say, oh, I'm not feeling hot at all, my finger's not burning? Of course your finger is burning. So sometimes when you do feel feelings of anger, rage, some even hopelessness, it is not because you're not positive enough. I think it's anger that is demanding attention. I think it is feeling that is demanding attention. It is something that is demanding it's demanding something out of you for you to do. Whether it is to do something about it or whether it is to make some changes in your life. But I think feelings of anger.
So you need to take.
Yes, I would add something to it, which is that a lot of times, of course, individual action, and right now we are living in a world where all the onus is put on individuals to do things. If there's something wrong with the environment and there's climate change, as an individual, I should not use plastic brush, I should not use plastic, I should not segregate. Yes, I will do that. But at the same time, structurally and in a systemic way, there also needs to be something that needs to be done. And often at times, a lot of us, and I say this not because of anything, but a lot of us have the privilege to take positions. And most people do not have that. If on an everyday basis, the problem is to be able to put food on table, and the times when we are living in, everybody's doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and gig economy and everything, and we're looking at figures, how do we expect people to have the luxury to make that choice or afford to make that choice? And so, which is why I also feel resilience, yes, all of us in our own ways, we have to try that. And if we have privilege, we can use that. But at the same time, also try to push something so that there's a systemic change that people who do not have the advantage to pay attention to their own problems in an individual way, they also manage to do something about it. So that is also something that we all need to push for.
I think for me, I feel that 9 रस है और इंसान उन 9 रसों का बना हुआ है जिसमें भय भी है, एंगर भी है, फ्रस्ट्रेशन भी है, सैडनेस भी है. So we are all humans, we go through these feelings. How long do you stay there? मेरी नानी बड़ी सिंपल सी चीज़ कहती थी कि हमें, अनपढ़ नानी मेरी, और वो कहती थी कि जब खिचड़ी आपकी रसोई में बनती है तो रोगी को निरोगी करती है, वही खिचड़ी जब आप दिमाग में पकाने लगते हैं तो अच्छे भले निरोगी को रोगी करती है. So you have to filter your thoughts, you have to take charge of your thoughts. And for me personally, I try to churn my anger, my sadness into a solution mode. So whatever is making me sad or angry, what can I do to erase it, to change it? मुझे ये बोला गया कि 2 बच्चे कैसे पालेगी, इसके बच्चे मैगी नूडल और पार्ले बिस्किटों पे पलेंगे, ये यही खिला पाएगी. मैंने गार्डन रेस्टोरेंट खोल दिया. उन्होंने बोला कि शी इज़ गोना बी अ फाइनेंशियल लाइबिलिटी ऑन अ हस्बैंड, ये तो इस पर खर्चे बढ़ गए हैं, नर्स रखो, ड्राइवर रखो, फलाना करो, ये करो. I started earning, and 2003 to this date, I have not taken a penny from my husband. I started earning, and I now earn 5 times more than his pension. That is how I triggered. They said, हमें तो वो दीपा याद है जो बाइक चलाती थी, ये चलाती थी, हाय बेचारी को व्हील चेयर के पहिए मिल गए. मैंने दोबारा बाइक चला दी, मैंने दोबारा कार रैलीज कर दी, और वो रास्ता खुला for the license for persons with disability, for modification in the policy where you don't have to pass on bribe to get a license. Now we have a system in place. It is legally allowed for persons with disability to drive in India. So you impacted that change. बुड्ढी है क्या खेलेगी, अर्जुन अवार्ड हो गया, घर जाओ, एशियन मेडल आ गया, बहुत है. ऐसे नहीं, पैरालंपिक मेडल जीतूंगी. फिर बोला पैरालंपिक मेडल हो गया, बुड्ढी है, 46 साल की है, घर जाओ. ऐसे नहीं, खेल रत्न जीते बिना नहीं जाऊंगी. 49 I won it. So what I'm saying, if anger can be channelized into a positive reaction and action with an action plan of solution mode, it gives you self-worth, it gives you upliftment, it releases the negative energies because you have found your purpose in that and you become a medium of change. That's how I handle it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Anu, and I want to ask, I really miss, as a citizen, I really miss good journalism in India. Like, we have seen it, and now everyone knows that it's like going down slide. So any hopes, will it improve? Because the generation is the kids now have more degrees, they are more intellectual. So will it improve with the time? What's your say on this?
Clearly for me, no? Throw stones at me, I'm responsible. But see, there, again, like I said earlier, we have to understand that there is so I started working independently because I was with a magazine, then I was with a television channel, and there are moments in life when you realize what you definitely don't want to do. When in this television channel, I realized, because a big corporate group had bought 37% shares in the news organization that I was working for. And so the marketing team came and briefed the editorial team saying that from now on, our target audience is going to be the urban rich. And so, and the prototype for that was a 35-year-old male techie sitting in Bangalore. So when he comes back home in the evening, he should switch to this channel. So the content of the bulletin and the graphics, all the fire that you see on the screen, they're all for the liking of the 35-year-old male techie. And then the editor turned towards us, and I was in investigations team. So we were told, yeah, stop doing these jhola wala bleeding heart stories. So this farmer suicide, this, that, don't do all this. And definitely for prime time, because we are going to sell modular kitchens and kitchen appliances, so you can't obviously do a story on malnutrition because you want to mess with the buying mood of the viewer. And so, so why don't you go and do an investigation on who are the rich kids racing fast cars in South Delhi? So like I then realized I have zero skills to do such a fantastic investigation. So that was the point I left. But the point I'm making is that there is a lot of corporatization of the media, and of course there will be, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, but journalism per se is, we were, in old school journalism, we were told that public interest is something that is of utmost importance. But here, if there is so much of corporatization, and now there's a corporate political nexus also within the media, not just in India, but globally, we are seeing how various political strands are changing, how news is being covered. We have seen in Palestine, Gaza, Trump, here, India, we've seen that. That structurally it has changed, and now it has moved to another level. I was in 2022 UP elections, I was in Azamgarh, and one old man in a village, he called me and he said, "Aap YouTuber hain?" So I said, "Nahi, main patrakar hoon." Then he said, "Tab main aapse baat nahi karunga." So it's clearly there is no credibility, and now people, us sitting here, are making a distinction between journalists and anything else that your journalism or anything else that we are seeing, which is content, obviously. But people now do not make that distinction between a journalist or a social media influencer or whatever. So there is a huge crisis, and all of this is driven by how the new revenue models are coming up in the media, how, and of course there is a, like I said, in the last 10, 12 years, it has really changed, because a lot of us, when we started journalism, we were told that if you get like a legal notice, it's a badge of honor, means somebody is reading your story. So you were all looking for those badges. But now in the last 10, 12 years, what has happened is that they have started filing law and order related cases against journalists and many other people. So there is also a lot of censorship within newsrooms. For example, another newspaper, which is almost 100 years old, I'm not going to name it, later on we can talk about it. The Delhi edition, for that they've made a prototype who's called Neha Chadda from Lajpat Nagar, because Neha obviously is like half the North Indian girls are called Neha. So Neha Chadda from Lajpat Nagar, who, according to this market research, is interested in bags, technology, and wellness stories. So not health, wellness, which means like how to lose your tummy in 10 days type of stories. And of course, when there is technology, because of course, when there'll be iPhone 75, she would like to update. So the front page is always made for this Neha Chadda. Then there is another newspaper where they, fantastic reporting, but
so,
they've told...
Neha, I think what Anu is looking for...
1 minute, which is in this front page of this paper, there's a clear instruction that do not criticize number one and number two. You know who those people are. So there is this huge corporate political nexus, and till we do not actively have something to stop it in terms of regulation, law, and actually a political will that is okay with fearless journalism or fair or independent journalism, it's not going to change, and we will be driven by what is running in the media. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, so what I was saying that what Anu is looking for is an answer from you saying, yes, we will bring about the change, just like Deepa ji has done by constantly asking questions to the right people.
No, but
that's what she's looking for.
So what I want to say is, like I keep saying, a lot of times now, particularly driven by social media, all of us are being propped up as heroes who are doing fantastic work. But actually, we are never talking about a support system that supports us. I am sitting here and I'm doing whatever, not because I am some great person born. I have a set of friends who I can call. I have a set of well-wishers who I can call. I have a set of colleagues who support me when something happens. And so one person doing something may not really change till we try to change the structure around us. Yeah.
So I would like each one of you to say a few lines about your book and what should we expect. I mean, आपके book की तो थोड़ी, we have got some glimpses through your stories.
The book for me, it's the 25 years I've completed on my wheelchair. I don't call it wheelchair, and I thought a Silver Jubilee year was the best time to narrate my story. The need to write this was because I rose to fame after winning the 2016 Paralympic medal. And the news that flashed around my medal was, oh, she's become the first woman ever. Maharashtra government is giving her this much money. Haryana has given her this much money. Prime Minister has invited her. Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh is giving her. Everybody thought that I was somebody who was rolling in money with a hefty bank balance. I was the luckiest woman on planet Earth. They saw me on a pedestal. They looked upon me as an achiever. They never knew the background story. It didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of internal struggle. There was a lot of emotional struggle. And everybody also thought that I'm somebody who's born with a silver spoon. I'm a general's daughter-in-law. I'm a colonel's wife. I'm an educated English-speaking woman who studied in Sophia College and traveled the country. So I cannot have any issues. So they were putting me on a pedestal as if I'm from a different planet. I don't belong to the common people. And no common person can relate to me because iske liye to bahut aasan hai. So it was very important for me to share the real story, what went behind the scene, and for people to understand that I'm also that commoner who came from a small town to a city called Delhi.
Of course, there is always,
and then,
even in privilege, there is struggle.
And then I also face financial challenges, emotional challenges, relationship challenges. So this book is not just a autobiography of a sportswoman. It is a book which carries parenting talks. It carries human relationships. It talks about mental toughness, mental well-being. It talks about setting targets, making a plan, preparing, achieving the goals, which probably can be taken up by any person who wants to start.
Please feel free to pick up a copy of the book.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Startup. So the fear of unknown, the leap of faith, changing, upskilling, accepting the change, continuously changing your genres from a swimmer to an athlete, from a discus thrower to a javelin thrower to a shot put thrower, upskilling yourself, then turning into an administrator. So there is something for everybody there. It is not about disability. It is not about sports. It is about a mother-daughter relationship, a husband-wife relationship, a mental well-being, how to set goals, what are the characteristics you need, how a human being can be strong. So there is a lot of layers that you're going to read through that. And maybe you'll discover the real Deepa behind the Deepa that you got to know through newspapers and media. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Deepa. Neha, would you like to say something about your book?
So, it's been 6 months. My book is called The Many Lives of Saida X, and it looks at last 30 years of India through the eyes of an urban, poor, migrant, working class woman in Delhi. And Saida, who was essentially a weaver in Banaras, her loom was burned down after the Babri Masjid demolition, and that's when she moved to Delhi. And in the next 3 decades, she almost took 50 jobs as a piece rate worker. So from making pressure cooker parts to door hinges, door knobs, tea strainers, all the almonds, shelling almonds that you eat in the morning, to stationery, all the festival goodies, and almost putting 12 to 16 hours every day and never making more than 1/5 of the daily wage. And in India, most of the women are employed in the agricultural sector, but after that, it is this piece rate work that they do. So, and in 2020, again, her house was burned down in the Karawal Nagar Delhi riots. So it basically looks at these three decades through the eyes of a worker and as a migrant worker, and what is this chief female labor economy that exists and supports stuff that is outside. And particularly also because every year we see all these news reports about how the female labor force participation rate is going down. But wherever you look, you see that women are working. And here, the piece rate workers, when you speak to them, wherever, when you ask them, do you work? They say, nahi, kaam to nahi karte. And then you say, no, you are stitching these footballs, and I can see that. And so there is also, like you were talking about, self-worth, where men have a higher sense of self-worth. So till they're not given 250, 300 rupees a time-based wage, they would not take up any work and sit like that the whole day. But women, because they have to buy groceries and buy milk for children or whatever, so they take up whatever. So this is what the book looks at.
Thank you, Neha. I think it will be very interesting to know a different, like where we are sitting today from here. I think your book would be like a periscope view of a different India, the underbelly. And Gurmehar.
Well, finally, I feel like I have a lot. I mean, two brilliant books. Feel very. The last person to speak is always lots of pressure. So I hope you'll forgive me if it's not a great story.
No, no pressure on you.
No, but I think what, I know we started this conversation where you asked me, oh, you got so famous so quickly, whatever happened, and while we were sitting, I was trying to contextualize it. I think that was when that happened in 2017. It was a period in India where nationalism was the conversation. Suddenly, we were talking about everyone's nationalism. There was only one way you could be perfectly Indian, and that was to align, and that was to follow the guideline. There's only one way to be patriotic. And suddenly, and who I am with my background, with my father who passed away in the Kargil War, growing up as an army kid with a father who is a war hero, I should ideally fit that expectation of nationalism and that idea of nationalism, those rules. I have to like a certain government, I have to like a certain leader, I have to fall into a certain narrative. But my book is actually about why I don't fall into that narrative. I think one of my earlier campaigns was a campaign where I said I want peace with Pakistan. And I know it's a bit controversial to say on this stage, but it was a very young idea. It was an idea that was born out of emotion and innocence and this almost deep hunger, and that came out of pain. That okay, this is too much. It's been what, 26 years. My sister has turned 26 2 days ago. Kargil War happened in '99, and my sister was 3 months old when my father passed away. It's been 26 years, and that LOC has not moved an inch. But every year we lose our men. Every year, kids like me, my sister, are orphaned. Every year, women like my mother are widowed for this cause. And I think that came from an idea of, okay, maybe we can find a better solution if there's political will. So the story is, a lot of people were asking me, how can you with your background want this? How can you with your background not align with the larger political narrative of today and the larger political government of today? How could you be this person? So I think my book is actually a bit of that story, and it's not about me, it's actually about my father, it's about my mother, their brilliant love story. It's about my grandmother who traveled from Pakistan during the partition, and it's a story about Punjab. It's a story about two people falling in love. It's a story about militancy period. It's a story about having seen the cost of war, and because my parents saw that very up close, from both sides, from the Indian army side, and of course when they were younger people, what the situation that was in Punjab, what happened to civilians with the militancy, all of that. I think, and how all of those memories, emotions passed down to me, which is why I have what I have, which is my opinions. It kind of is an answer to a lot of those politicians, a lot of those cricketers, actors who said, why you? What's wrong with you? I think the whole book is a bit of an answer. This is why I am the way I am.
You're great, Gurmehar. Also, I think what you said about war, that's a woman's perspective. Like, women would always be against war because women always lose. No matter who wins, women lose their children. So
Manisha, you should also speak about your upcoming book.
Yes. No. So writing a book is
so she's
so
part
much
of
work.
the State Women's Commission in UP, and she's been collecting a lot of experiences. Maybe you should speak about that as well.
Okay. So you're putting me on the stand now. So yes, so I'm a politician, and I have been appointed to the UP State Women's Commission, and in the last few months, I've been visiting villages, and I've been attending to complaints from women. So why we have a women's commission is because a lot of women don't have a voice, and we are not representing women according to their share in the population. We should be 50% everywhere, but we are very far from that. So as a Women's Commission member, I listen to and I hear, and I have to come up with solutions and get them close to justice. But it's very difficult, and so I don't want to talk about it. But we have the best laws for women's. Matlab ki, as far as women's crimes go, I think after 2013 and the Vishaka Committee and so many others, so we have the best laws. I think many countries don't have the laws that we have. Yet so the problem in our country is not legal. We have the legal solutions. It's social. Our society is very cruel towards women, and especially so I'm looking at the very underprivileged section of the society, and women are just unceremoniously, like, they are thrown out of the house, and they have no say, and it's so difficult because the counselors, the government has appointed free counseling, so there is everything. You go to a district and you have a one-stop center, you have counselors, you have police, they have, there's an arrangement for a woman to even stay there. But it's the people, so I feel we have to change as a people. I mean, you can legislate ourselves to heaven, I heard this somewhere, but what will the laws do when the people, they don't believe, before the woman reaches the legal threshold, she's told to go back home. Like, why are you breaking up your home? And the husband has the right over you, and and it's really sad. So, and the women are not aware of the laws. Most women do not know the laws that are there for them, for their protection, for their rights. So I think the legal awareness is a big issue in our country. It's not just the underprivileged and the uneducated women. It's some of the women sitting here. You don't know the laws that you have to protect you, and so sometimes you get fooled, and so I think I just thought of compiling these stories, and I come across a lot of bizarre stories. Some are really funny. I was narrating to my husband one day. I thought I was looking at like a small short comedy movie and that was one case where we found the solution then and there. So it was a huge family drama, and we sorted it right there. So sometimes, we can find solutions within our societal structures, which have been, it's a very, slippery slope, like the CAPs and the kangaroo courts. Sometimes they work, but I think mostly women should rely on the legal system that we have and become aware. So this book is about short stories where we can create awareness about the legal system that we have for women. And so on that note, I think this has been a great conversation, and I believe everyone will go back home with some kind of a positive note, because what do we not have? The women sitting here, the men sitting here, and especially the women. I mean, when we talk to women, we are talking to converts, right? It's the men. It's the men we need to talk to. So I'm really grateful to the men who are here today, because I think, you still hold power over everything in our country. It is a man's world. And there are women who are, empowered and privileged. So I think that's what we are, all of us here in some way or the other. And that's why we could achieve what we have till now. And so I would like to thank all my panelists. It was really lovely listening to all it was a wide range, from this chirpy activist, and who is like power packed, Could you imagine that, she has gone through so much that anybody else would
I
have...
like to keep the bubbles about me.
Yes, that's great. And Deepa, I mean, we will all go back home. The lovely poetry, I hope there is some of it in your book.
Even I get trolled, huh?
I'm sure. I mean, I know who doesn't?
पहले ये होता था हाय बेचारी अब कहते इसको चैन ही नहीं है. So it happens.
So earlier today you were saying you don't want the sympathy, the empathy. You want to play that role and you want to show the world that, paraplegic or even disabled people have all kinds of emotions, the 9 nor rus that you talked about. So I hope there's more about it in your book. And Neha, I mean, I'm a fan of your kind of journalism. And someday, hopefully, I can, write, a book like all three of you have written. So it's a long way there yet. But thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for being so patient.